Fairies are often disregarded as simply weak creatures, at least when it comes to their attack strength. Their true power lies in their effects, and it is up to each and every duelist to figure out themselves how to best utilize their untapped potential. I believe fairies get their bad rep for being an inconsistent Christia deck. Therefore, I decided the rate of summoning an Archlord Christia just had to increase, and that was the main issue we had to tackle to put fairies back on the map. By combining fairies with the power of Dr. Crowler's ancient gears from Yu-Gi-Oh GX, we can overcome the issue of our puny fairy monsters' attack points. By using a field spell engine of Mausoleum of the Emperor and Gear Town, we can make use of an old ruling allowing us to summon ancient gears directly from the deck by just setting a field spell on top of our Gear Town. That allows us to bring out an ancient Yugioh dragon, who has attack power equal to a blue eyes white dragon. Then we can use Mausoleum of the Emperor to cheat out Archlord Christia from our hand. This takes fairies from being a slow control deck to an aggressive OTK deck. No one uses fairies like this. This is my take on fairies for Edison format. So to start off with the monsters, we play 3 copies of Archlord Christia, 3 copies of Dimensional Alchemist, 3 copies of Shining Angel and the 1 Nova Summoner, 3 copies of Herald of Orange Light and 2 copies of Honest. Then for the other cards, I'm playing 3 copies of Cyber Valley. So I think this card is very underused in Edison format. It being able to be a good starter, because you can go normal summon Valley turn 1, and Frogs, Vayu and Blackwings doesn't really have a good answer to this, outside of maybe taking it with something like Brain Control or Mind Control if they play it and use the effect for themselves. Usually they just end up attacking into it, which fuels up your banished zone for Dimensional Alchemist, so he becomes live when you summon him the following turn. So I think this card is very good in Edison format. I think a lot of people should consider playing this card in more decks at more than just 1 copy, because it's actually really good to open with. And heading into a board, if you have any of the take cards like Mind Control or Brain Control, it's very good at dealing with their cards and drawing 2 and getting deeper into your engine, as well as fueling up the banished zone if that's relevant for your deck. Then I'm playing 2 copies of Ancient Yugioh Dragon. We'll talk about this in a moment. And 1 copy of Blackwing Gale. As I mentioned before, I'm playing the Brain Control and Mind Control, so being able to pair any of those with this card against Blackwing is very good. Also, I'm siding Siroko's to beat Deck Devastation Virus, so I have extra utility post-side for this card. Also against Frogs, being able to make a Black Rose Dragon or Ancient Fairy Dragon. For the spells, I'm playing 3 Gear Town, 1 Mausoleum and 3 Terraforming. So why am I playing Ancient Gears in my Fairy deck? Well, the answer is a lot of the games that you're losing is because you're drawing Christia too early without a way to summon it. So I wanted to play 3 copies of Trade-In to be able to discard either Archlord Christia or Ancient Yugioh Dragon to draw 2 new cards. Just having 5 targets is plenty, because you're able to recycle either of them with Dimensional Alchemist, seeing as they will likely get bottomless, or the Christia might get deprisoned. It usually ends up in the banished zone, and then you're able to recur it back off of Dimensional Alchemist and normal summon it again with Mausoleum or discard it with Trade-In. I decided to play max of Gear Town at 6 copies because I really want to see multiples of them as fast as possible, because I want to kill my opponent turn 3. I don't think you want to be able to get into a long game with this kind of deck, because you don't have Black Whirlwind, you don't have any graveyard resources, so you're just losing out if you're trying to grind against Frogs, Vayu and Blackwing. I want to kill them as fast as possible, and I think these cards allow me to do exactly that. Another problem with the Fairy deck is when you see Christias and you don't have a way to summon her, she just ends up being dead in your hand. With Mausoleum, you can pay 2,000 to be able to just normal summon it, and if they kill it, like with Regeki Break for example, or Mirror Force Torrential, it goes to the top of your deck, and you can pay 2k, normal summon her again, and they have to deal with it. Being able to go Gear Town, Mausoleum, summon Christia, and attack for 8800 damage through Gorse or Trag or Fader against Frogs actually comes up more than you think. Especially as you get into the later turns, when maybe you've done some ship damage with your Recruiters or your D-Alks, because their turn 1 usually ends up putting them on no monsters if they're going swap frog bounce. Being able to do 58. This card is also very good in the metagame because it attacks into Blackwing and Vayu boards very well, because they can't use Deep Prison or Mirror Force. And it's also very good against Titanial because you're able to attack over her, and then you still have to deal with a 3000 attack body that you got essentially for free. So that's the reason why I played those. Additionally, when you get Deck Devastation Virus, being able to summon a 3000 attack beater is very, very good. I think the games that you do lose to deck Devi are where They deck dev you, and you can't stop them from capitalizing off of the deck dev. They now have perfect information. They know exactly what kind of trap cards you have, unless they were set previously. Let's say they deck dev you turn 1, worst case scenario, right? They see all of your trap cards. They know you have prison and no other spell traps, so they can just make a Bryanak and bounce your prison and attack for game, for example. But being able to summon a free fast and attack beat stick they have to deal with, and being able to run over their Greffer or whatever else they may have, is very, very good. For the take cards, the Mind Control and Brain Control, as I mentioned, very powerful cards. For the spells, I have MST and Heavy. MST being able to pop your own Gear Town in the battle phase to summon an Ancient Yugioh Dragon, and Heavy Storm being able to clear their back row and summon an Ancient Yugioh Dragon. For the traps, I have Call of the Haunted, Torrential Tribute, Mirror Force, Dust Shoot, and Return. I decided to just play these 5 because I'm able to side out these when I put in Royal Decrees for the trap decks, while still keeping the very powerful cards like Dust Shoot and Return. So I didn't want to play too many trap cards like Bottomless or Prison in the main deck. Also, I'm trying to kill my opponent. I don't want to play a long game with trap cards. I just want to blow out traps where if they play into them, they might lose the game. And being able to side into more trap cards against something like Amaryllis, where I don't want Royal Decree, is also very powerful. So that's why I'm maining a couple of them to have the option of having more post side. Turn is obviously very insane because you play Cyber Valley, and eventually they're going to have to bottomless your Yugioh Dragon or Christia, and then being able to just return it back and attack for game is very good. For the extra deck, I'm playing the 1 Armory Arm, 1 Android, 1 Cataster, 1 Brionac, 1 Flamvel Uruquizas, 1 Goya Guardian, 1 Armor Master, because I'm playing the take cards. If you take a Gale, you can make this, or with your own Gale. Ancient Fairy Dragon. This card is very powerful, being able to pop your field spells to get another one. This does not make a Gear Town this timing if you choose not to search. So you can pop a Gear Town, gain 1000 and still summon Ancient Yugioh Dragon. But if you search, you cannot summon as it misses its timing. 1 Black Rose Dragon, 1 Dark End, 1 Avenging Air Knight Parsha, 1 Fought Ruler Archfiend, 1 Colossal Fighter, 1 Stardust, and 1 Chimeratech Fortress Dragon. So the side deck is where it's a little bit more interesting. As I'm playing the Recruiters, I get to play a lot of tech cards that you can summon off of the Recruiters, and you need some way to beat deck dev post side. The Ancient Gear cards do help a lot, being able to push through a DDV, but you also want some monsters in your deck to where they don't get hit by deck dev. So usually I tend out to side a couple of them out. Against, for example, Black Wings, I usually do not keep in all my copies of Herald of Orange Light. You can side out a couple of them because you're putting in other fairies like the Consecrated Light. This card is very good against Vayu and Black Wings, being able to summon it off of a Recruiter or protect it with Royal Decree, or having to back up your Ancient Yugioh Dragon with a Consecrated Light is also very strong. I'm playing 2 copies of DD Crow. This I do side into Vayu in this deck, just because when they do their Greffer play turn 1 to summon an Armed Wing for their DDV, you're able to Crow the Vayu when they attempt to summon Armed Wing, and then you can summon a Recruiter, crash into their Greffer, and drop a Christia, or just being able to control the game from that point. Because they're dropping a lot of their cards from their hand, and when they're doing this play turn 1 where they summon the Armed Wing, you know for sure that they have deck devastation virus, because they wouldn't summon Armed Wing turn 1 otherwise. So being able to Crow it, and then you just play around the DDV by making your game plan a bit different. So you just have to keep that in mind. Perhaps you play a little bit more aggressively, because they've effectively used 3 of their cards. They've used the Dark Greffer, they've used their Vayu or Sirocco that they pitched to send the second one to be able to summon the Armed Wing turn 1, and you know they have DDV, so 3 of their cards are now known. So you can play a bit more aggressively in that way. 1 Proto Cyber Dragon. This is a card I don't see a lot of people using in their Fairy deck, which I think is a big mistake. Being able to crash your Recruiter into a Machina Gear frame, for example, and summon out this, it counts as Cyber Dragon on the field, so you can contact Fuse into Chimeratech with their entire board. So you can effectively search a Cyber Dragon with your engine. I don't play regular Cydra because I didn't feel it was good enough, and I can beat DDV in other ways. I don't need Cyber Dragon to beat Deck Devastation Virus. Then I'm citing 2 copies of Fossil Dyna Patches to follow. Against Frogs and Amaryllis, it's very powerful to have a board wipe that you can set. They think it's a Recruiter, so they're free to attack into it, and it ends up being a Pachi, blowing up their entire board. Also, being able to normal summon this against Frogs, along with your Ancient Gear push, being effectively 4th and 5th copy of Archlord Christia. 3 copies of Sirocco. As I mentioned previously, I'm siding Sirocco for Blackwing and Vayu. Also, this does not get hit by deck devastation virus, which is a big thing, and pairs well with the Gale in the main deck. 1 My Body as a shield, 2 copies of Royal Decree. This card comes in against all the trap decks, such as Blackwings or Vayu. 1 Karma Cut. I wanted a card against frogs that deals with Vanity's Fiend, Absolute Zero, and Dupe Frog. Also being able to take a 3/1 frog in the graveyard when they have one in the grave and summon back the other one. You can just Karma Cut them both away and you don't have to deal with them anymore. It's a very versatile card in that way. I don't really care about dealing with their back rows. It's mostly the monsters that I am concerned with. And then Karma Cut, being able to banish them, is much better than spinning a Dupe Frog to the top of their deck or popping it with Regeki Break. And for the last 2 cards, I'm playing 2 copies of Bottomless Trap Hole. I wanted something when I'm playing against the combo decks, or something like Amaryllis or Lightsworn, where I'm able to just stop whatever they're doing and buy another turn. I think against the trap decks, I would much rather have something like Royal Decree. Albeit Bottomless being very good into Blackwings, I would rather have Decree and stop them from playing rather than try to trade 1 for 1 with their cards. Because I actually want them to have their monsters on the field, because that means that I can crash my recruiters into them, or Dialk can attack into a Bora at a +1, or Shura. Being able to crash with the Shura, get back a guy is also a +1. So yeah, I really like Bottomless against the combo decks and Amaryllis. If you enjoy my content, make sure to also subscribe to my second channel, links in the description box down below.